Hello students, hope you are doing well and using the time constructively. Today in this video I would like to discuss interference lesson, which is a very important one in semester 3. I hope you have some knowledge over light and its properties like reflection, refraction and other phenomena. But here we'll discuss especially interference lesson. Now, light is a very enigmatic entity. That means it has both wave nature as well as particle nature. And in order to support the wave nature of light, we have three important phenomena: interference, diffraction, and polarization. In order to understand the particle nature, we have photoelectric effect, Compton effect. Of course, you will get these two effects in modern physics, and in order to understand and appreciate this phenomenon, we have to take light as a particle and collision between photon particle and electron particle. Apply the conservation laws and get the results. Now coming to the syllabus of the interference lesson. The first one is principle of superposition, coherence, temporal coherence and spatial coherence, conditions for interference of light, Fresnel's biprism, determination of wavelength of light, change of a phase on reflection, oblique incidence of a plane wave on thin film due to reflected and transmitted light, cosine law, colors of thin films. And continuing further, interference by film with two non-parallel reflecting surfaces, that is called a wedge-shaped film, determination of diameter of a wire, Newton's rings in reflected light, Michelson's interferometer, determination of wavelength of monochromatic light using Newton's rings and Michelson's interferometer. And Thomas Young was a scientist, was a man who for the first time demonstrated the interference phenomenon. And see, this is the one where the two waves originate from two sources and they travel, and in that process they get interfered, and during the interference phenomenon you will get a peculiar pattern on the screen. I think you might have studied in your intermediate about this Young's double slit experiment, and here you have a source of light. The light comes here like this, and here you have a single screen with a hole, a slit, S naught. Now after the light passing through this particular S naught will travel like this, and here you have another screen with two slits, that is S1 and S2. And remember, the distance of separation between these two slits is taken as 2d, 2 into small d. Okay, this is an important measurement. And finally, the distance between these two S1 and S2 called coherent sources and the screen is capital D. So when light travels like this and it falls on these S1 and S2, now S1 and S2 will behave as two virtual coherent sources of light. We'll discuss what is coherence and other things in the coming slides. Now the light passing through this S1 and S2 will fall on the screen to give you an interference phenomenon. That is, alternate bright and dark bands are formed with equal intensity as shown here. Now for example, you have a torch light, and when you switch it on and put a screen here, what do you observe? You will observe some sort of an illumination. Now you use a second torchlight, then what happens, or what do you observe on the screen? You will definitely observe more amount of intensity on the screen, almost like a uniform illumination on the screen. But once when these two are monochromatic coherent sources, then interference phenomenon will take place and you will observe completely a different pattern on the screen. That is alternate bright and dark bands. And this is the pattern that we observe in Young's double slit experiment. This is called the bright band and this is called the dark band. So bright and dark bands alternately form, and this is called interference pattern. Now this particular distance or the length is called the fringe width, and it is denoted by the letter beta, and beta is equal to lambda capital D by small 2d. Beta is equal to lambda capital D by small 2d. And here brightness of the thickness of the bright band is equal to thickness of the dark band, or fringe widths are same. And remember, in this formula lambda is wavelength of light that is used into distance between the two coherent sources and the screen divided by distance between the two virtual coherent sources. Now first of all, we should understand what is meant by coherence, and I'll make you that point clear. Now for example, you take up an incandescent bulb like this. Now once you take the incandescent bulb, it produces light once when you allow the electricity to pass through it, and this particular light contains almost all the wavelengths in the visible range, that is almost from violet up to red. That means we all know that the violet has a short wavelength and red has a very long wavelength. So this particular bulb gives out all types of electromagnetic radiations of different wavelengths. So this is an ordinary light. It contains different wavelengths. Please remember this point. Now, what is meant by coherence? First of all, coherence means two waves, which are arranged like this, which have a zero phase difference, and then combination of these two things will give the resultant wave like this. So if the two waves are like this, then we call them as coherent sources of light. Okay, on the other side you have incoherent, that is out of phase. So once when the light waves go out of phase, the resultant will be something like this. Now here you should understand what is the meaning of monochromatic, coherent, and in phase and zero phase concepts. So monochromatic means a single color, a single wavelength. And about the coherence, for example, here the two waves have the same wavelength and they are completely coherent here. And here they are monochromatic, that means they have the same wavelength, but they are out of phase by a certain value. So in both the cases we call them as monochromatic and coherent source, and this is also a monochromatic and coherent source, but here there is no phase difference and here there is some constant phase difference. Now coming to principle of superposition, this is the first important concept, and I have taken this from the directly material, so follow me carefully. So when two or more waves overlap, the resultant displacement at any point at any instant is equal to the vector sum of the instantaneous displacements that would be produced at the point by the individual waves if each were present alone. This concept is important. If each were present alone. In simple way, we can say that the principle of superposition of waves states that the resultant displacement at any point is equal to the vector sum of the displacements of different waves at that point. So you see, children, naturally that amplitude is a vector quantity. When two waves combine together, the resultant amplitude or the resultant intensity is given by the vectorial sum of the two constituent waves. That is called simply superposition principle. Now coming to the mathematical treatment, this is the first important short answer question. So here, how do we prove that the resultant wave is also a periodic wave with certain properties? So now here we should take the derivation like this. Let delta be the phase difference between the two waves, and y1 and y2 be the displacements, and a1 and a2, small a1 and a2 be the amplitudes. So now the regarding the first wave, we represent y1 is equal to a1 sine omega t, and for the second wave we represent y2 is equal to a2 sine omega t plus delta. So here amplitudes are different, but angular velocities or angular frequencies are same, and they may have a constant phase difference delta. Now, according to the law of superposition principle, when the particle is disturbed simultaneously by two or more waves, the resultant displacement is equal to the sum of the displacements due to each wave separately, and hence y is equal to y1 plus y2 you have to write. So therefore y is equal to, so in the place of y1 you put a1 sin omega t, plus in the place of y2 you put a2 sin omega t plus delta. Now you write the first term as it is, a1 sin omega t plus a2 of, you have a sin of a plus b formula, sin a cos b plus cos a sin b. In similar manner, you will write sin omega t cos delta plus cos omega t sin delta. And now you multiply with a2 because it is there outside. So therefore, you will get a1 sin omega t plus a2 sin omega t cos delta plus a2 cos omega t sin delta. So now y is equal to, now in these first two terms take sin omega t common, then you will get a1 plus you will get a1 plus a2 cos delta, and here when you take cos omega t outside, you will have a2 sin delta. So the equation is y is equal to sin omega t of a1 plus a2 cos delta plus cos omega t of a2 sin delta. See here, when t is involved, it is a time dependent factor, and other one is a time independent factor. So we have written them in the form of a sign time dependent and time independent components. Now let us call a1 plus a2 cos delta as r cos theta and a2 sin delta as r sin theta. Okay, so once you write that in that manner, then what happens is you will get, in the place of a1 plus a2 cos delta, write r cos theta and a2 sin theta as r sin theta. So that you will get y is equal to sin omega t into r cos theta plus cos omega t into r sin theta. So from this one, when you take r common, then you will get y is equal to r of sin omega t cos theta plus cos omega t sin theta. This r goes out, so therefore you will get it like this. And here, whatever that is there here in this particular bracket, we can write it as sin omega t plus theta. This is equation number 6. So therefore, y is equal to r sin omega t plus theta. This is the one that will get it. What does it mean? It means that the resultant wave or resultant is also a wave of a particular amplitude, and it is a sine wave. That is important. Okay, so now what is the amplitude and what are the factors that influence the amplitude? We have to talk. Now see here, uh, you take those two equations and then square them and then add them. That means r square cos square theta plus r square sin square theta. Okay, so that is a1 plus a2 cos delta whole square plus a2 sin delta whole square. And here you take r square common, so r square of sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to, you expand this one on the other side like this, a1 square plus a2 square cos square delta plus 2a1 a2 cos delta plus a2 square sin square delta. So now here in this brackets it will become 1, so therefore r square is equal to a1 square plus a2 square plus 2a1 a2 cos delta, and here a2 square cos delta cos square delta and a2 square sin square delta will become simply a2 square, so that you will get this equation. So ultimately r square is equal to a1 square plus a2 square plus 2a1 a2 cos delta. And please remember this point that square of the amplitude is represented by the intensity. So therefore directly I intensity is equal to r square is equal to a1 square plus a2 square plus 2a1 a2 cos delta. So that I is equal to a1 square, in the place of a1 square you can write it as I1, in the place of a2 square you can write it as I2. That is nothing but the intensities of the individual waves plus 2 into, okay, and in the place of a1 you can put root I1, and in the place of a2 you can put root I2. So therefore you will get I1 plus I2 plus 2 root I1 I2 cos delta. So this is the one that you should show in the exam. Now coming to the coherence and its actual concept. Now the fundamental requirement for the existence of a well-defined interference pattern is that the light waves that travel from the two sources to any point on the screen must have a constant phase difference between them. Otherwise, the intensity at that point on the screen will vary with the time. Thus, for sustained interference, two interfering sources of light must emit waves which always have a constant phase difference or a zero phase difference between them. Such sources are called coherent sources, and coherence is a basic need for the permanent interference pattern. Coherence is a property of light wave. Now, consider two completely independent light sources. Remember here, in fact, no two independent sources of light can act as coherent sources. That is what we want to prove it. Okay, so now consider two completely independent light sources, such as two fine incandescent wires placed side by side. So no interference fringes appear on the screen. Yes, because these two independent sources of light emit waves of different wavelengths and in a very incoherent way, and that is the reason why you don't get any interference pattern. Even if they are monochromatic, then also the phase difference will not remain constant. So two independent sources cannot act as coherent sources. Please remember this point. And there is only a relative uniform illumination. Okay, So we can interpret this if we make the reasonable assumption that for completely independent light sources, the phase difference between the two beams arriving at any point on the screen varies with the time in a random way. At a certain instant, conditions may be right for cancellation, and at a shorter time later, perhaps around 10 power minus 8 seconds, they may be right for reinforcement, that is constructive interference. The eye cannot follow these rapid variations and sees only the uniform illumination. Under these conditions, the two beams emerging from the two sources are said to be completely incoherent. Thus, independent sources cannot maintain a constant phase difference between them, and hence they cannot be coherent. And that is the reason why in Young's double slit experiment we have made two holes for the second screen where the light coming from those two slits will behave as two coherent sources originating from the same source. That point is important. So now you have two types of coherence, a temporal coherence and spatial coherence. Temporal coherence means related to time, and spatial coherence means related to space, that is at a particular point. Now, temporal coherence. This type of coherence refers to the correlation between the field at any point at the field at the same point at a later time. That is relation between E. Here this is electric field of the electromagnetic wave XYZ T1 and E XYZ T2. There T1 and here it is T2. If the phase difference between the two fields is constant during the period normally covered by the observations, which is of the order of a few microseconds, the wave is said to have a temporal coherence. If the phase difference changes many times and in an irregular way during the short period of observation, the wave is said to be non-coherent. Now, spatial coherence. Now see here, if the two atomic emitters, because why we are talking of atomic emitters, because please remember that the source of light is nothing but mainly electronic transition from higher energy state to the lower energy state. So if two atomic emitters are so positioned that the path difference of P, remember this path difference is an important concept. Here S1 and S2 are the two coherent sources, and as I told you, the distance of separation between S1 and S2 is always 2D. And now P is the point on the screen. So now the light from S1 travels to P and light from S2 will also travel to P. Okay, so now what is the resultant intensity of the light waves at the point P? That we are talking. So that depends upon this path difference, that is S1P and S2P. Okay, so generally once when you take this angle as a small, almost this is as a right angle triangle here at M1 right angle, therefore this becomes S2 N1 becomes 2D sine theta. Okay, please remember that. So if the time lag between S1P and S2P is of this order, delta T is equal to S2P minus S1P by C, then it will act as a coherent source. But for example, if you move the S2 to a greater distant place S2 dash, then the path difference will be more and hence they will not behave as coherent sources. Okay, this is what I have told you in the next slide, in this slide. And here this 10 power minus 9 is important because S2P minus S1P is less than or equal to C into 10 power minus 9 I have kept here. So C, in the place of C you put 3 into 10 power 8. So therefore you will get a 3 into 10 power minus 1, that is around 0.3 seconds. This is the minimum time that our eye can observe. Now, so spatial coherence depends upon the linear separation between the two sources and also on the time of emission by the different sources. Time incoherence is a characteristic of a single beam of light, whereas space incoherence concerns the relationship between the two separate beams of light. Light from the conventional sources is characterized by two important parameters, namely coherence, time, and coherence length. Thank you, my dear students. So I have given the notes to you, already supplied through the WhatsApp. So go through the notes up to this particular point. In the next video, I will discuss the next important concept, that is Fresnel's biprism and conditions for sustained interference. Thank you.